Yo, this is Ben Cubbage from Elevated Trips at elevatedtrips.com. It's a beautiful day in March 2023, and we are headed here to Shachung Monastery. It's a small monastery, but it has a beautiful view overlooking the Yellow River, and we just passed the town of Hualong, which is an interesting town known for having Tibetans who actually practice the Muslim faith. There's very, very few Tibetans who are Muslims. Most Tibetans, I'd say 99% are actually Tibetan Buddhist, but in this particular town, you have ethnically Tibetan people who wear Tibetan clothes, eat Tibetan food, but they practice the Muslim faith. And that's in the town of Hualong. It's kind of a dusty area full of dusty mountains, and we're going to be exploring today. You can see behind me this super windy road. We probably wound up probably 20 or 30 different really gnarly switchbacks. The road is paved, but just barely. It's a one-lane road, and you definitely might want four-wheel drive. Coming up here, as we're coming up from the town of Hualong, we're right now about a 10-minute drive from the monastery. Behind me are these beautiful prayer flags welcoming us into the monastery area. The monastery itself is located on this ridge, kind of this knife edge ridge. It's kind of really grassy, steep slopes on either side, and it's right at the pinnacle of that ridge and overlooks the Yellow River and looks directly into the red rocks of Kumbala National Park. So we're about halfway between Xining and Rebkong, and we're checking out the monastery today. Right at the entrance here of Shachung Monastery, you have these 8 stupas, or courtins. These are 8 stages of the Buddha's life. And inside of these usually are buried some kind of special sacred item, potentially a monk's glasses or cane, or some holy item that commemorates this area as being sacred. And we're just about 500 meters actually from the monastery, and as we're driving into the monastery here, you have these stupas, which are often a feature right in front of a monastery. We're standing right here in front of Shachung Monastery. This is not the biggest monastery in Qinghai by any standards. Tarsa has 800 monks. Rebkong Longwu Monastery has 800 monks. There's about 200 to 250 monks inside of this monastery, although it used to be probably around 800 to 1,000 monks in its heyday. But this is a very old monastery, built in 1349. This monastery is actually built by the mentor or the master of Tsongkapa. Of of course, Tsongkapa went on to be more famous than his own master, as he created the Gelugpa Yellow Hat School. But he studied here as a teenager for about 10 years, and from then he went on to Lhasa and other places to other monasteries, but his initial Buddhist education as a child was actually here at this monastery, at Shachung Monastery. This is called Shachung Monastery because Shachung means Garuda, or basically a kind of one of the mythical birds of Tibet, which is kind of like an eagle, often pictured in Tibetan Buddhist paintings eating a snake. And the Garuda itself is kind of a flying mythical eagle, and the hill that this is on here is actually shaped, if you look at it in the right direction, like an eagle. And so we're kind of perched on top of the eagle's head, and the hills or the ridges spreading out or fanning out from the monastery are kind of like the eagle's wings. And so that's why it's called Shachung Monastery, the Tibetan name for the Garuda bird. Behind me in this monastery courtyard is this throne here. So you can see it's kind of a yellow throne. It's actually covered up with a bit of a cloth, so it's hard to see the full form. But this is for the Rinpoche, who's considered the living Buddha, who's a Buddha, a man who's reached enlightenment or nirvana, and has decided to delay his enlightenment so that he can bring enlightenment to other people, particularly monks in this monastery. So this is a special throne only for the Rinpoche, or the leader of this monastery. And at this throne, he'll come and he'll do a special teaching here in this courtyard. You can see this open sunlit courtyard behind me, and he'll teach. This may often be also, the courtyard may also be a place of monk debate, where the monks are actually debating philosophy, and that's how they work out the basically the hierarchy, or the political hierarchy through the monastery of who becomes a leader of the monastery is through debate. And so the Rinpoche will sit here and oversee some of these debates and make sure the debates are going well, and he may even ask questions to some of the younger monks as one of the basically the questioners to the debate team.
Are you stuck? Are you stuck?
This is just the entrance to the first temple, and you can already see it's just amazingly decorated in these splendid colors, really eye-popping. They'll repaint this usually once a year, and just recently, in the last few months, they've actually repainted this brilliant blue. This blue color actually used to only be able to be found from lapis lazuli, a rock that only is found generally in Afghanistan. So this blue color used to be very, very expensive, and the blue, especially that Buddha you see behind me, also used to be very expensive. But of course these days we have modern materials and modern paints. But several hundred years ago, the only source of that blue paint color was actually the lapis lazuli. You can see behind me, we're in the very first assembly hall here. And this is the main meditation hall. These little seat cushions behind me, it's a little bit dark, but those are where the monks will sit and meditate as they join together in the main assembly hall, meditating every morning together. And then from there, they'll go to their individual colleges or their individual areas of study. But this is the one time where the monks will get together and actually practice meditation together, usually led by the master of the monastery or one of the leaders of the monastery. about halfway up the monastery here, and this is really one of the main reasons for me to come to this monastery. Of course, the monastery is very peaceful and beautiful, but just the views looking down through the valley, looking right over the Yellow River there. The birds are flying on the thermals, flying up and down in spirals. Just lots of beautiful noise, and we're really some of the only people in this whole monastery. It just feels very, very classic, very old. Yeah, very peaceful, and I've almost never encountered any other foreigners in this monastery when I've been here, so really beautiful place, looking right over the rugged hills of Qinghai Province. This Tibetan Buddhist symbol, it's called the Kala Chakra, and it's supposed to be a special protective symbol. You'll generally find it over many houses in Tibet, but also in monasteries. It's essentially the 6 letters of the holy prayer or holy sutra, Om Mani Padme Om. So there's 6 Sanskrit letters there. They've combined them all into kind of one mush of a letter. And you can see the blue is 1 letter, the white is 1 letter, the yellow is 1 letter. And combined, they form Tibetan Buddhism what is thought to be a very protective or very powerful emblem of protection. Okay, we're here at Shachung Monastery. You can see one of the main reasons to come to this monastery, other than the incredible view, is this huge 20-meter tall statue of Tsongkapa. Tsongkapa is the founder of the Gelugpa Sect, which is the current ruling and predominant sect of Buddhism. It's not the oldest, it's actually the newest sect of Tibetan Buddhism, but Tsongkapa is the guy who founded this sect, and ultimately his statue is there. In fact, this sign actually says Zōngkapa, 10,000 Buddhists or Buddhist statues. So inside this little hall are 10,000 statues that are attributed to Tsongkapa. In 1374, Tsongkapa made his way to Lhasa. He very quickly became a famous debater of Buddhist philosophy. He studied all Tibetan Buddhist schools there, and not really setting out to really start his own sect. He started to question some of the practices that had come into Tibetan Buddhism, where it had started to become corrupt, especially around money and politics. Monasteries were then not only the spiritual centers, but also the political centers ruling over people. And some have even described it as a bit of a feudal caste system. So he said, hey guys, let's get back to the original teachings of the Buddha. This is not really what the Buddha was about, was money and power and centralizing our egos. And so he reformed it, and today that is the dominant school of Tibetan Buddhism. This has been coverage from Elevated Trips at Shachung Monastery, one of the hidden gems of the Tibetan Plateau. Just 2 hours from Xining in Qinghai Province. Subscribe to our channel and check us out at elevatedtrips.com.